All of those pathways have different challenges, but common requirements for being successful, including managing talent and having a good employee experience. Dr. Christine Derry from the Center for Information Systems Research at MIT Sloan School of Management, which we affectionately refer to as MIT CSR, is going to shed some insight on some of the research that they've done within the center and that she has led in helping us understand what those key requirements are. I should point out that we're really grateful to Avanade, who's one of the founding partners for the Center for the Digital Nonprofit. They have a partnership with MIT CSR, and they helped us bring Dr. Derry here for us today. So thank you to Avanade for making that possible, and hope you will join me in welcoming Dr. Derry to the stage.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. It's a bit cold in here, isn't it? I'm from Sydney, so, you know, it's a bit chilly when I got in here, but it's fabulous to be here, and we're going to warm up because we've got some really exciting things to talk about. And I'm thrilled to be here with you today, and thank you again to Avanade for making this possible. Is this too loud for everyone? Okay, you've got good? Okay, terrific. All right. I want to talk about the force of work. We used to call it the workforce. But now we have all of these things, people, technology, people joining us full-time, people coming in part-time, people that are gig workers, freelancers, volunteers. We have what I love to call the force of work. And the key thing is, how do we manage that in a digital environment to ensure that we give each of those people an opportunity to grow and to be successful in what they do, and in turn enable our own organisations to be successful. So that's what I want to talk about this afternoon for the next 30 minutes. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Everyone good?
Yeah.
Great. Okay, because we don't have anything else, so we're going with this. Okay. This is MIT CSR. I'm just going to show you that very briefly. You can have a look at that afterwards. These are all the companies that help us to make sure that our research is mens et manus, mind and hand. So we do great research, but it always has to have the so what? What does it matter? Who cares? Who's going to get value from this? How is it going to change the world and make the world a better place? These companies help us do that, and you'll see Avanade there on our list, who have been fantastic patrons of our research centre and really encouraged us and challenged us at every step of the way. So this is my favourite painting at the moment, and I wanted to share it with you because what it says to me is something about the world we're living in today. It's called Building the Boat While Sailing, and Dana Schultz has done it. She's a New York artist. Many of you may well know her. The reason I love this is because this is what it feels like to be in the digital world. It feels as if we're kind of creating this and building it and learning about it, and as we go. There's no time to sit back and plan, and as we used to, the world is much more chaotic now. I happen to love it like that, but it has certain challenges for our people, and that's what I want to talk to you about. So here's the thing. Work's becoming more complicated. We've got multiple systems. We've got people going from all different types of enterprise social networks across email. We don't necessarily know where everything is. We've got mobile. We've got far more fluid boundaries between our organisation and all the other organisations that we deal with. We have to get really good at partnering. We've got a shortage of the talent that we need just exactly when we need it. So there's a lot of challenges that we're trying to come to terms with, but also huge opportunity. And that's what I love about this painting, that it brings into perspective this idea that there are all of these things happening as we're trying to sail the boat along, but the boat's still moving. We're still going somewhere, and where we're going is really exciting and we're full of great opportunity, with people doing a whole lot of things, and with a whole myriad of people now having a voice and being empowered to participate in this new world of work. So it's exciting times. But there are some things we have to think about, and there are some things that we have to be a little more clear about as we try and manage our way through this chaos Otherwise, we're going to find it very difficult and more stressful for our people. So here's the thing. What keeps our CEO up at night is probably what keeps a lot of you up at night, that are digital leaders or participating at various different levels in your organizations. We've got a shortage of people who have the skills that we need in order to be effective in a digital world. Now, on top of that, a lot of those people don't necessarily want to come and work for our organizations. There's different pay scales out there, there's different opportunities for them to work in digitally born organizations. There's a whole lot of places and opportunities for that workforce to choose to go to. So when we've got a shortage of work, we've got a whole lot of options for the people that we need to choose from. And on top of that, we have the ricks of the world. My head of admin at MIT hates this slide with a vengeance. But the thing is that the ricks are choosing a very different way of going about building their careers. They're choosing this freelance or gig workforce. So the estimate currently in the US is about 35% of college graduates will choose this way of working. So not only have we got a shortage of labour, a whole lot of organisations that present often better opportunities than our organisations present, but then we've got the ricks of the world that are highly skilled and making very different choices about how and when they work and what kinds of relationships they want with these organisations, with our organisations. So at the very time when we've got this explosion of apps and explosion of need to create these digital capabilities, we also have a problem with talent, a challenge with talent, which just means we've got to get better at it and we've got to do things differently. Here's the thing, 67% of employees, according to our study of 400 organisations, large organisations, that's what we do at Statista, we study large organisations that are transforming for digital. Organisations that have got legacy systems, legacy cultures, legacy leaderships that need to make changes. These companies are saying 67% on average of our people are going to be impacted significantly by digital change. Does that surprise anyone? Anyone want to say it's more? Put your hand up if you think it's more. Yeah. I think it is too. I think this is conservative. Because their roles are changing, their technologies are changing, the way in which they're employed is changing. We're asking them to work in these test and learn environments, and they've been used to command and control. Everything about the things that have made people feel safe in our workplace, everything about all of the things that they've grown up with and learned and become really good at, we're now challenging in this new world of work. So this is really significant. Interestingly enough, when we ask what is important to you in your digital strategy going forward, these same companies say customer experience is by far more important to us than employee experience. Go figure. 67% of employees on average are going to be impacted, and yet we're going to put all our efforts into the customer experience. We've got a problem here. We've got a real opportunity, but we've got a whole lot of challenges with that opportunity. Let me show you a few more things. Okay. We talked about the 4 pathways. Lauren very kindly laid the groundwork here for me. We have 4 pathways to become future-ready organisations. Future-ready organisations are those that are empowered to work effectively in a digital environment. Think about these 4 pathways as where you would put most of your resources. So pathway 1 is a pathway where you're putting most of the resources. Think about that ship that's sailing along. We're building it as we sail. Most of the resources are going into all the maintenance down below in the hub, right? We're putting new bits of timber in places. We're adding new winches. We're creating new plumbing. Do you have plumbing on boats? I think do it. Okay, so all of that stuff. We're creating that in now more industrialized approach. We call it the digitization desert in the beginning because we don't see a lot for our huge investment we're making. But it sets us up for the future, and it enables us to do a whole lot of things, create API-enabled platforms, all those kinds of things that we need in a digital world. The second platform, Platform 2, what's going on there is all of those people on the boat that you saw crazily moving around, they're working like crazy to make all the new bells and whistles that you put at the front end of the boat work. Because all the things sitting underneath are broken. So we're putting together systems that weren't designed to be put together. They're grabbing ropes, they're grabbing string, all sorts of things that they might use in order to enable that to happen. We call it the culture of heroics because our people are putting up with systems that weren't designed for the digital world, but are trying to make it happen in ways that please our customers and enable them to do all of the things for our beneficiaries that we want them to do. The third pathway is the pathway of whiplash, where we're running in one direction and building all these things for our clients, and then our CEO says, stop, the costs are too high, and we run in the other direction and bring the costs down, and then our CEO says, we're not delivering enough benefits for our beneficiaries, and we turn and we run the other way and create a whole lot of front-end apps. Does that happen in any of your organizations? Yeah? I'm sure it doesn't. Okay, so that's pathway 3. And pathway 4, we just give up. And we create a new organization, we say it's all too hard, and we go off and we build a new organization, and we make that a digitally born company. Then we've got to figure out somehow how we put the two things together, but that's somebody else's problem. All right, here's the thing. This is non-for-profit data. So these are companies in the non-for-profit sector, and the big numbers, the little tiny numbers, are those ones in the for-profit sector. You can see that the majority of companies in the non-for-profit sector are on pathway 3. Next most popular pathway is pathway 2. So this delivery of capabilities for our beneficiaries is really important on these pathways, but then typically we have to find ways to do that at a reduced cost. The costs get too high. So it's not surprising to me anyway to look at this and say that a lot of companies in the non-profit sector would be on pathway 3. Here's what's interesting. See those little explosions? They're explosions for a very good reason, because that's what it feels like. Along the way, there are all these explosions that happen. And one of those explosions is that our people need to work very differently. You know that 67%? Well, they're an explosion. New ways of working. Decision rights is another one. We have to change decision rights in these companies as we move along these pathways to enable us to change our organizations and move them faster along. So these explosions are incredibly important. And what I want to talk about is the talent explosion today. What it takes to have the people in the right place that can deliver these capabilities so we can move forward on these pathways. Because this is hard. But every one of these pathways is going to deliver value. They're just going to deliver value in different ways. And the key thing is knowing which one you're on, so you know what explosions you're likely to expect and when, and how you're going to be building value as you go, and you have a vision for where it is you want to get to. So, when we asked which pathway was going to be hardest, see this little guy struggling up pathway 3? We thought it's going to be much harder for companies to go up that whiplash pathway. Who would agree with us? Yeah? I should have had most of you on my research team. Aha! There's some different thinking. So, remember, one axis is getting to really understand your beneficiaries and your customers, and the other one is becoming operationally efficient. So we thought it was pathway 3. We went out and tested it. We love it at MIT when we're wrong, and we were so wrong. This is the one that's hardest. Who thought that? All right, give me your cards later. Come and join my research team. You're in. This is what we thought. We thought that pathway 2 would actually be a great pathway for employees. It would attract great talent because you were doing new things. It would enable your people to get really excited and behind this vision because they would see these new capabilities being built for the beneficiaries, and they would see success happening in the organization. Pathway 2 is really hard on employees. It's really difficult because they're trying to hold everything together and there's not enough being invested in them. So all those people, those companies that said, we're investing largely in customer experience and we're not so worried about employee experience, most of them are really struggling up pathway 2, or in fact pathway 3, when they have to go up the rise in the step. So here's the next hardest one was pathway 4, and the easiest pathway, the easiest of all of them, is that industrialized pathway. Well, this was very confusing to us. Why would that be easiest for employees? Anyone got any thoughts? Why do you think it's easiest?
Makes their life better.
Sorry?
Makes their work easier.
Yeah, why? Because we're digitizing processes, right? It makes it easier because we are applying digital technologies to do this. We are building an employee experience in this environment that enables them to have this adaptive work environment and also work with completely new habits. So that's how we define employee experience. It's about how people get their work done today and reimagine their jobs of tomorrow. And guess what's happening on pathway 1? We're digitizing a lot of work on that pathway. We're looking at processes, we're making them more efficient, we're taking cost out, and we're creating an environment where we're able to enable more reuse and build more capabilities right across the organisation that can then be expanded. So this pathway is actually not that bad for our employees at all. And their employee experience goes up as they move along that pathway. The problem occurs when we're asking people to work digitally. We're asking them to work in very new ways. This is much more challenging. So on pathway 3, what we see is when they're going along on the tread of the pathway, we're doing a whole lot to digitize work itself, which means we're getting rid of the junk, all the stuff that makes us slow, all the stuff that takes us away from doing all the great work for our beneficiaries. We're having to sit in the office and make all these antiquated systems work. We're getting rid of that. When we start to move up the tread, up into that customer-facing part of the model, then we're starting to work very differently to add value, and this is much harder. And that's why on pathway 2, we see some real challenges for our people. Here's what we know, that companies that do invest in employee experience, they're building this adaptive work environment, a work environment that's where we're constantly working at being more digital, constantly using technologies, space, all of the things that are available to us to make it appropriate and supportive of the work that needs to get done. And we're creating new habits, new ways of working. Those companies in the top 25% in our study had very different results. They were twice as good at delivering services, integrated experiences and services to their beneficiaries or customers. Twice as good. They were twice as innovative. So they came up with new products and services much faster than their competitors. And they were 26% more profitable. Now the thing about this profitability measure is not only were they driving more benefit for their customers or their beneficiaries, but they were doing it at a much lower cost. So they're really pulling cost out of their system. So, we asked a question, why are they able to do that? What is it about these companies that have this better customer employee experience that enables them to deliver these really outstanding results? And part of it is because our employees can do things much better and more effectively for our people. But there was another part to this, and that was what these companies were making very different choices about the talent that came to work for them. Remember where we started, where we said there's the Ricks of the world, and then there's a whole lot of other digital talent that doesn't necessarily choose our types of organisations to come and work for, but is much more attracted by those digitally born companies. Here's what's happening. Look from left to right of this model. So on the left side, what you'll see is that 63% of companies, the 53 and the 10%, are employing over half of their workforce, their digital workforce, as contingent workers. They're on contracts, they're freelancers, they're gig workers, they're volunteers, they're not FTEs. On the other side, 37% only are employing their digital workers as full-time employees. That was interesting to us. By the way, the average on each side is 78% FTEs on the right and only 26% FTEs on the left. So very different sorts of environments and different forms of employment on the left to the right. So the question is it better to employ your digital talent as FTEs? Or are you better off to go and get them all as contract workers? Maybe that's a better model. What delivers the best results? That was the question we started off asking. And the second question is, depending on the answer to the first question, what does it take to make sure you've got the right workforce in place to enable you to be really successful in a digital environment? Well, here's what we found. Up on that top right, these are the companies now that have built their employee experience. So you'll see that axis on the left is their employee experience, a measure of how well they've been able to build an employee experience that enables people to do their work effectively today and reimagine it tomorrow. Get that? These companies that have built that employee experience are making very different choices, and they're much more profitable, pulling out costs, delivering much better capabilities to their beneficiaries or their customers or their clients. They're 22% faster time to market. They're much better at their ability to change, and they're much more innovative. So where do we want to be? We want to be here, right? We want to be largely in this world of digital, where we have so many challenges and we've got so many opportunities to do things very differently and create very different experiences for our beneficiaries or clients or customers. We need that key talent as largely FTE. But here's the thing. Not everyone chooses to be there. And in fact, it's very hard to be there. So a lot of companies ended up in that bottom left box, not because they wanted to be, but simply because they hadn't built the employee experience to enable their company to be attractive to that talent. So when suddenly you have to sail that boat out into the harbour and you're trying to build it while you're going, you need to bring all of these teams of people in from the outside contingent workforce. Here's the other thing. A lot of companies, and many of your companies I suspect may be in this situation, have to be over in the more contingent workforce box. So you're largely reliant for a whole variety of reasons on contracted labour, on volunteers, on people who come from outside your organisation. But if we build a great employee experience for those people, the benefits are still significant over to the left-hand side. So what does this say? That to make choices around talent in the digital world, building that great employee experience for your people is absolutely critical. Digitising work, getting rid of the junk, making sure they can focus on the things that really matter, and then enabling, stepping out of the way, coaching, enabling, leading these very new ways of working. If we can get that right, then we start to be able to make very different choices about talent, who we want as FTE, who we want from the contingent workforce, and there are very good reasons why you want to be bringing people from outside into your organisation. So these companies on the top right are making those choices. They're very enabled in the marketplace. They're very attractive. And on the left, we're starting to learn what it means to build a hybrid workforce. And this is what's going to be critical that we see going forward for digital, is what does this hybrid workforce look like? How do you engage your people along a whole multiple range of contracts and ways of working and enable them to grow and learn and really be inspired within this same workplace? I don't think we've got that right yet, but we've got a few clues. You've got to get really good at onboarding. Really good at using that technology to onboard people really quickly. Do you know the average length of onboarding in Australia now is 69 days? It's gone up and up as more complexity around employing people has come throughout the regulations and in the organisation in various guises. In the US, I believe it's up to around 91 days. We've got to get much better at doing that. We've got to get much better at search. We've got to get much better at providing educational and learning opportunities for our workforce, regardless of where they come from. And we've got to get much better at building relationships so that our people come and work for us, might go somewhere else for a while but want to come back, so that that contingent workforce chooses us when they want work rather than us taking whatever is out there in order to do this digital work. This is a very new way of thinking in terms of how we see our talent and our digital talent in organisations moving forward. But we can see from the data, those skills are going to be critical going forward. Now let me tell you a little story at this point, in the last few minutes we've got, about the New Zealand government and what they've been doing. And I want to share with you what one of the agencies has been up to there. This is a very new case study that we've just done in the last few weeks. So some of the data I can't share with you more formally, but I can tell you the story. And it's a captivating story for me. The problem that this agency had was they were charged with delivering data into the NGOs in a way that was meaningful and helpful. So the first thing they did, remember that access that said get closer to your beneficiary, your customer, get to know them so much better. They went out into the field and they interviewed 1,000 people across all of these NGOs. And they said, what is the thing that would really matter? What makes a difference to you? What helps you here? And they said, we want to build value in ways that we can share across our communities. We're doing everything in these little silos, everything's replicated, we don't know what one organisation is doing or the other, and yet they really impact us. We're spending a huge amount of time on the junk because we don't have systems that allow us to share all of this data. And we don't know what we can tell people or what we can tell other agencies because we're so concerned about all the rules and regulations around privacy and data. And because we don't understand it as well as we should, we just do nothing. So they went about building a data exchange. They partnered, the SIA partnered with an organisation, a tech organisation, to build it for them because they didn't have their capabilities in-house. They created a pipeline. Think of this as a smart pipeline. And they're able to share data right across all of these NGOs. So now they've got a way of being able to transfer data that's compliant, that is safe, is encrypted so the government doesn't touch it. Nothing goes to the SIA from the pipeline. They don't look at it as it goes through, they don't store it, they don't use it in any way. They are simply providing the infrastructure to allow that data to flow through. Then they said, all right, well, that's all very well, but no one knows how to use it. So their data scientists, who typically would be beavering away in Wellington with their little data scientist hats on, they said to them, okay, you guys, all four of you, you've got to go out into the marketplace and you have to work with these NGOs to help them work out how to use this new data platform, how to share data, how to use it effectively, how to turn it on, what equipment they need. You've got to help them, you've got to learn from them. Well, what do you think the first thing they had to do for the data architects to equip them properly to do this? Driver's licenses. They didn't have driver's licenses. So the first thing they did was they got them driver's licenses, they got them mobile technology, and then they had to teach them how to deal with people effectively. Because now they were going to go out and they were going to have to talk to these agencies and they were going to have to learn about what this data actually meant. They weren't just sitting at a desk and behind a screen. They were out there in the field understanding how they could build value. These data architects have been completely transformed. They have a new role. Their whole job, their whole employee experience has been totally transformed. What do they need in the SIA to make this work? They need those people to be full-time. because they need them to understand the complexities and nuances of the world they're working with. They need them to share those experiences across the agency, and they need them to be really committed to the goals and the values of what they're trying to do. They're measuring this whole experience not by the data, not by the effectiveness of the pipes, but by how those pipes are impacting the beneficiaries. This is the extent of where they've got to so far. You'll see how all of these agencies are now starting to be connected. The other role of the data architects is they have to find ways and create value from this data across the networks, so that they are the ones that are really starting to understand and create value for each of these entities as they build the pipeline and as they connect different agencies together. Quick example, if you look at the Department of Corrections, when people come out of prison, typically on parole, they have to have an address to go to. This used to take 35 phone calls. It used to take another person to make another 20 phone calls to find a bed for them. They would be trying to connect with each other. It could be 2-3 weeks while somebody stayed in prison beyond when they needed to be, and before they actually found an address for them and could allow them to go out on parole. Then they had to connect all the social services to them. Now that can be done completely in real time. They know exactly where all the beds are. They know exactly how to connect those people with their new addresses. They then connect them instantly with the social services that they need, and that data is able to be exchanged freely amongst all of those NGOs in order to deliver the best possible support and opportunities for those that are being released on parole to come out and be effective in the society that they've just come back into. So there's a lot of examples in this case study, but this is a great way of looking at how companies are both moving up those pathways. If you look at how this organisation is now becoming much better at understanding their beneficiary because of all the knowledge that they're building. So they're going further up that left-hand side, but as they're doing that, they're getting more insights as to what they have to do to build the platform to continue to deliver and grow this network. And in the process of doing that, they're totally changing the employee experience of their staff to add much more value in the system, and also to build a more rewarding environment for data scientists and allowing them to grow and develop and learn, and therefore stay at the agency and continue to deliver value. So it's a great example of what we can do. Where to go next? Here's what I recommend. Actively get out and look for those speed bumps. They're the things that are making it really hard for your people to deliver value. Digitize wherever you can. It's getting easier and cheaper and more affordable to do that. And it's creating an enormous opportunity to get people away from the junk and into the value-creating work. Look at what it means to work digitally in your organisation. For the SIA, working digitally in their organisation meant making these people mobile, enabling them to participate in knowledge exchange, giving them the skills to be able to go out and work really closely with the citizens and the beneficiaries for whom their services were designed. And then learn about how to build a hybrid organisation. And when you learn about it, come back and tell me. Because we really need to get good at this. We need to know how to bring these different players together that have got the very valuable skills that we need in order to help us move up those pathways and develop those capabilities to be future-ready organisations. So I wish you well. Please come and tell me about your stories. I'd love to hear what you're doing. I'd love to hear how you're facing some of these challenges and moving ahead with them. And finally, we'd love you to participate in our survey. That data I showed you right at the beginning is brand new data that we got from our survey that is now nearly 600 companies. Almost 100 of them are NGOs. We would love to add to that non-for-profit sector of that data set so that we'd be able to then get more nuance and give you more information about how to operate effectively in this digital world, and the sort of insights that we see that hopefully will help you do that. So please participate in the survey. We would love to be back here next year giving you even more data about what's happening in the non-for-profit sector. And thank you all for the wonderful work you do and for allowing me to come along today and share some of the insights of our research. I'm very, very grateful. Thank you.
In case anybody is wondering, Christine did not just give away the location for next year. When she said we'll be back here next year, she did not mean here. She would love to be back here next year. She did not mean Puerto Rico. Although, wouldn't it be nice to come back to Puerto Rico? Who wants to know where we're going next year? Not you? You just want to be surprised, Rui? Is anybody surprised that Rui is like, yeah, let's just find out next year? It is fitting that our last keynote is being delivered by John Roberts of My Proteus. John is passionate about helping people deliver change, and he's going to talk to us today about how organizations can develop a change management capability. One of the things that's interesting about working with John, and for those of you that have not had the opportunity to work with John yet, or who have had the opportunity to work with John, you'll know this to be true, which is John is not just here to help us along the path of change, but is actually really interested in helping us all develop the capability to change inside our organizations, and how do organizations develop that muscle and that skill. We have certainly seen that inside NetHope as John has been coaching us through our strategic plan refresh process, and has really helped us think about how we as an organization can develop the capability to change so that we can better respond to our members' needs. I know many of us have enjoyed John's talks both last year and through this week, so please join me in welcoming John Roberts to the stage.
Cool. So last year I was first, this year I'm last. Won't see you next year. Yes, this is going to be quite a difficult session for me. Just warn you now. So what I want to do is just talk about change. Okay. What slides are? Cool. So let's have a look. Where are we? Oh yes, last in Dublin. Hey, talked about this topic, change. And a significant number of you have come up to me this year and reminded me that actually you've realised the importance of ABC. And who was in Dublin, by the way? Hands up. Oh. And what else did I warn you about last year, can you remember? Puppies. Remember? Don't buy puppies. So, this year, sorry, I haven't got it on here. She said, you cannot stop change. Change is inevitable and is a constant. What matters is how you respond to change. And the wisest person on the planet? My mum. So she did a very strange thing. She went like this. And I went, what are you on about? And she said, That is actually my mum's hand, by the way. It's not like one of those down-road jobs. And she said, it's all about 2020 and the humble 60. Didn't have a clue what she was on about. You won't until the end. This year, I've talked about, can we do something together on safeguarding? Talked about organisational change. I'm just trying to work out my zone. But I can't see anything. How healthy is your project? And I'm very, very passionate about self-sufficiency, right? About teaching people how to fish. Right? Do it yourself. Don't rely on consultants, beautiful as they are. Right? Do be your own change. I've also tabled what I believe is one of the biggest obstacles to technical ambition, but also one that I think is your biggest opportunity, a space you can go in. It's what I call, who is addressing the black hole of business change? So if you look at organisations, we've got 8 different types of organisations. In this world, the blue is business as usual, and the little bit at the bottom is IT. And then we're doing more IT. But we can live in different ecosystems. I don't have to talk to IS if I didn't want to. Don't smile, Sergio. Then we actually get introduced to doing a bit more business change. And then a bit more. So when you look at case management is 20% technical, 80% business. If we don't address the business side of the equation, you're going to get stuck. And what we've got is these varying stages of how big is change. So just want to do a quick exercise. Hands up. Who think their organisation is in number 1 and number 2? Who thinks their organisation is 3 and 4? Cool. Who thinks it's 5 and 6? And who's in the world of pain in 7? Cool. But the issue is, and what we've seen through the week, is people are roughly in the 3, 4, 5, 6 mark. And the question I've got to you as a community is, who's going to go and fill this space? Because it's either going to be the business, either it's going to be you guys, or it's going to be a bunch of consultants. Because somebody needs to go and do it. And I think you've got a massive opportunity to go into this space, increase relevance, and actually just help deliver for the business. There is a tipping point at 4 where you've got to start creating a common language of change. And my view, which I haven't discussed much this week, is IT and business need to get closer. And also, NetHope, its partners and donors need to start to invest and develop change capability. So NetHope have started, so there's been a few mentions about us offering 4 core services. Those core services are all about helping you be self-sufficient in change. That's the boring bit. But to deliver change in the change, we need 2020 and the humble 60. This year I've also been listening, watching and meeting quite a few of you. I've been watching NetHope stuff and I realised they do 20, 20 and 60. And I got them to do all this. They didn't have a clue why I was doing it, but fair cop. Right? I'd like to particularly point you to the bottom left. That's Elizabeth. She's been the busy bee. She's in the corner over there. Right? She's one that's actually made sure with her team that everything's tickety-boo. So before we move on, I've also been watching partners partners and also realise actually they do care about 2020 and the humble 60. Just imagine what Justin thought when I asked him if I could take a photo of his hand. Right? The guy on the right-hand side is Eduardo from Cisco. He gave the best quote of the week for me. I don't know if you saw his talk. I nominated myself to help. What a man. Right? Brilliant. Isn't that brilliant? I nominated myself to help. I've also been watching you guys. Been watching Sergio quite a lot. Don't know if you saw him on the dance floor last night. Quite special. But you as well are all about 2020 and the humble 60. The problem is you don't talk a lot about your humble 60. I think you have forgotten about your humble 60. So what is it all about? It is genuinely all about 2020 and the humble 60. Last year it was about puppies. I've moved on. Okay? So what I want you to do is I'd like you all to stand up. And I'd like you to do that. It's got to be exactly like that. And I want you to check your next door neighbour, because I don't want any of this rubbish. Right? I want you to look at your next door neighbour, just to double check we're in the... Everyone's going... Just imagine now taking photos of 60 odd hands and just realise that hands are odd. Genuinely odd. So this is my mum again. 20% is your conviction. I believe. Which is why I love working with you guys. 20% is your collaborators. 60% is your commitment to make it better. And I don't think as a community, because I deal with 20 odd sectors, this community by far has got 60% in shedfuls, but you've just forgotten about it because you do it, it's natural. Some of you, I saw you dancing yesterday, just whilst we were at it, I know it's a bit of a digression. 20% of you were definitely convinced you could dance. 20% of you did collaborate very well, especially the Latin American salsa people. And 60% of you need to commit to dancing lessons. So, that's it. Whilst you're standing, if you think you've learned something today, can you please give yourselves a little clap? Just a little clap. If you intend to do something with what you've learned this week, give us a bigger clap. I couldn't find a photo, so I had to do an enlarged version. And by the way, if you are just awesome, I want to come back to Puerto Rico. Make some loud Fine, thank you. And finally, I want to just say a big thank you, because you won't believe this. These are real survivors of the different hurricanes. The guy top left is Petito. Petito works here. He is the oldest guy who works in the Hilton Group worldwide. He's 79. Right? He's been working here for 56 years. And he serves great beer. No joke, no. I was getting a bit emotional, thought I'd move on. But he's been 56 years. Right? So us coming here to get this place up and running has affected his livelihood. Right? That's what it's all about. And I really want to say a personal thank you for one, letting me just talk rubbish. Right? And I just want to really, really say thank you, genuine thank you, from my mum, my family, and the big boy. Thank you.
Thank you, John. I think we all know anytime that John takes the stage, that we will learn something, that it will be well presented, and that there will be something that we will be talking about next year. I mean, we were all talking about ABC all week, certainly about puppies, and I'm pretty sure that none of us are ever going to forget this. So thank you. So as I think back over this last week, I am somewhat inspired and energized, as I usually am at the end of the summit, and also, frankly, exhausted. It's been a busy week, but it has been, remarkably important for all of us to come together. We were talking earlier with some folks who were here for the first time. It is an opportunity for all of us to come back together as a community and connect. I hope that some of you have gotten the chance to put your feet in the sand. Is there anybody in this room besides me that has not actually made it to the beach yet? Right. So, if you need any reassurance when you get back home and people are like, really, Puerto Rico? I will say, everybody in the room raised their hands. None of us have yet had the opportunity to take a break, and for many of us in the room, you will go tomorrow to do even more. But we didn't come here to put our feet in the sand, although I really do hope that you all get a chance to at least spend a moment on the beach before you leave. We came here because this theme of vision and action and hope is really about the work that we do every day, and the fact that we could come to Puerto Rico and contribute in some small way to the continued recovery of this island was really an additional benefit that we were looking forward to. I am looking forward to the next year. The board did gave us a high-level approval yesterday on our strategic plan refresh, so we're re-engaged and sort of where we're going to go over the next 5 years, 10 years, whatever that time frame we've set out for ourselves may be. There's a lot of work to be done, but certainly after everything that we've accomplished here this week, there's much more. There's a tremendous amount of momentum for us to build on and make that real. Our past and our future are defined by collaboration. It's central to the work that we do. And if you think about all of the selfies that we took this week, all of the pictures that we've taken, it really talks to the fact that each of us come as individuals, but we work as a community when we are together. Whether you come from a donor, whether you come from a member organization, whether you're part of the NetHope staff, whether last night at the party you wandered in off the beach and were trying to figure out what was going on, this community welcomes you with open arms and says, how can we support you? How can we build something together? What can we do together to have an impact? And that's really an amazing element of the NetHope community. This was a quick picture of the staff we could round up on Sunday right before the opening social. We weren't able to get everyone in there because frankly some folks were working. We're a relatively small staff, but some of the folks on our team have been working on planning this summit for more than a year. And I just want to take a moment and pause and tell them thank you. We've all had a great week here, and they've really made it possible, each and every one of them, whether they were supporting sessions, whether they make sure our sponsors were taking care. It is pretty remarkable what that group of people do, and how little sleep they can all get by on and still smile. I also want to thank all of our sponsors. It's not possible for us to do this without their support, without their financial support, without their contribution of the talents from their team, without their guidance. All of those things that our sponsors for the summit bring really contribute to the quality of the event. Some have been partners for NetHope for the full 18 years of our existence. Some are brand new and are just starting their journey, and certainly we hope to see all of them back next year. The summit is special, and certainly last night, anytime you can get a bunch of nonprofit folks and corporate folks doing a conga line through the hotel lobby, I feel like we've accomplished something. So I want to give a big thank you to CDW and Unit 4. It's not often that I get to stand on a trash can with some of my colleagues after a pina colada and say thank you. So in case you missed that moment last night, maybe not one of my finer moments, I'm going to take the opportunity to say thank you to CDW and Unit 4 for hosting us last night. And that was certainly not our last celebration, because as soon as we are done here, Splunk is generously hosting our closing reception, and certainly we will all have the opportunity to say one final moment, to have a glass of wine or a beer together before we head off. Oh, and it's the last chance to pick up any of the corporate merchandise out there. So if you haven't gotten your swag yet, now's the time. Now, where will we go? Okay, is Erin Connor in the room? Where's Erin? She may not be here. She worked harder trying to find out where the summit is next year than probably anybody. The number of rumors were awesome, right? My favorite one was that where we're going is in the Northern Hemisphere, and the name of the city had a Z in it, which quickly turned into a geography lesson. How many cities in the Northern Hemisphere have a Z in them that you can name? That was pretty interesting. There have been lots of theories. I did confirm to our sponsors this morning that where we were going had a vowel in it, and specifically an E. If you want, it's a little bit of a longer list, but the number of cities that have an E in them is pretty long. But there are a number of places that we're going, but next year it's Berlin. It's not tropical, but it is beautiful, and I am sure that we will have another fantastic summit in Berlin next year. So make your reservations, make your plans, and not surprisingly, there are a number of folks on the NetHope team that have already been planning for next year. So we will be very happy to be there, and I will look forward to seeing everybody there when we get there next year. And last but not least, I want to say thank you to the staff of the Caribe Hilton. They have been fantastic all week long. For a hotel that was just able to reopen a few months ago, they have done a fantastic job. And so I want to give them a big thank you. And they also wanted the opportunity to say a little thank you to us and to provide us a moment to celebrate with them. I'm not sure we will have the same send-off in Berlin. So with that last burst of energy, and I am so impressed that you were all up singing and dancing, again, let me just say thank you. Thank you for being here, whatever your roles. Thank you for participating this week. Thank you for contributing to the summit. Thank you for being part of the NetHope community. I look forward to seeing you all in Berlin next year. And please join us for our closing reception outside. And for those of you that will be doing the service projects tomorrow or some of the workshops tomorrow, I hope that you have a wonderful day. Thank you all. See you next year in Berlin.